Welcome to the Last Drop Business Podcast, where we have the privilege of interviewing successful business owners who have maintained their sobriety. These entrepreneurs have achieved great success while staying sober, inspiring all of us to overcome challenges and to achieve our goals. So whether you're someone who is in recovery, an entrepreneur, or just someone looking for stories of hope, The Last Drop is your source of inspiration, motivation, and empowerment in the business place. I'm your host, Timo, and please join us as we celebrate The Last Drop, the moment where everything changes and the real journey begins. Welcome to the Last Drop Business Podcast, where we celebrate the incredible journey of individuals who have embraced a sober lifestyle and have found strength, resilience, and purpose. I am your host, Tim O'Connor, and on today's episode, we have Chaseson Smith. He is the owner of the Legendary Printhouse in Waco, Texas. Chase and I have been doing a little bit of work together, and I just wanted to get him on the podcast, kind of hear his story a little bit, and just dig into what he does a little bit. So how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Sweet. I'm good, man. I'm good. Busy as the weekend. Happy Friday. So
Yeah,
we,
happy
we made
Friday.
it through another week, right? So
Another week.
It's counting down.
Dude, yeah, it's so true, man. It's with the holidays around, it feels like these weeks are just going faster. Like I was like, oh, it'll be maybe a chill month and it won't be that big of a deal, and everything will be nice and relaxed, and it's like the complete opposite,
Yeah, just busy.
Yeah, dude, it's snapping for sure, and it's going so fast, man. It's crazy. So yeah,
What
let's
we
get
have.
into it. Got a couple of questions for you, and we'll just kind of start with the easy ones first. I guess it's easy depending on how you look at it, but so why did you get into screen printing?
Screen printing, man. So ever since I was 12, I wanted to own my own clothing brands. And so at that time, obviously 12, you don't have a job. You doing the chores around the house just to make the $20 for the week and all the good old stuff. But man, I've always wanted my own brand. And, my mom has always told me to do research, do your research, right? So you don't just go into something and then you spend all your money and it goes completely left and you don't get any type of progression out of it. So the cool thing is about that is I went on, played football, all those good old things that kept me occupied in my 20s. And then eventually I was just like, I want to actually do my brand. And so when I was looking, you had a lot of print on demand, which the quality, not knocking the industry, but the quality is not as there as screen printing. And it was just so expensive just to put my name or my brand's name on a blank to put out to the masses. So I was like, man, how can I find a way to do what I want to do, which is make my brands, but affordably, right? So therefore, screen printing was an option, man, and I just went there.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
man.
how did you acquire your first setup? Did you have like a one screen setup, or did you start small and then go big? Could you tell me a little bit about how you got into it?
So man, I'm sure everybody that's in it right now would tell you I started watching Lee Stewart and Ryan Moore from Ryan Net.
Yeah.
And dude, I just started binge watching. Then I came across a guy that owns Bob Productions, and he was screen printing out of his basement. I said, I can do that. It's just, how do I do that, right? So at that time, we were still in crypto was still, fluctuating and growing, and
Yeah.
we were in a bull market. So, dude, I took like $4,000. Actually, matter of fact, I just got let go from my job. And I was like, I'm gonna just take 6 months to myself. And during that time, man, I just did crypto and I made the money to actually buy my screen printing press, which I went with a Vastex 4-station 6-color press. And then I got the mixing kit from FN Inc. And dude, I just got everything that I needed and said, hey, I will figure it out. And I watched it for about a year. And then eventually I was just sitting in the shower one day, man, just trying to relax. And I said, man, I got to do it, right? So I ended up buying this heat press that I hardly even use from from Heat Press Nation, dude. And so I've only dabbled with it maybe a little bit, and the screen print is just the majority of the business. So
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. So When I first met you, when we first started talking, you were just a couple months into your business, or like how it was just like what? Where are you at now? Like eight, almost a year, right?
So, March 17th will be my first year in business with this
Cool.
venture. Um, uh, I think when we first started, I think we were getting to, it was before I did the Habitat for Humanity shirts.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Yes.
so that was kind of like our first venture together. And so
Yeah,
after
yeah.
that, it was, obviously that's history in the making. So,
Yeah, man.
um, but yeah, man, I mean, my first year has gone unbelievably better than expected. I
Hmm.
got a little bit to build on, obviously next year, but I'm a goal oriented person, but I've also like I always want more, right? Not in a
Yeah.
greedy way, but I always want more. I always want to do better, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
never satisfied. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I feel you, man. That dude, that's awesome. And you were like in hustle mode too, right? Like when I remember when I first started looking at your Instagram, you were like cleaning screens in your bathtub, and like you were like you were making it happen. You didn't have a
Yeah.
facility or anything. Like you just were printing in your house in like a spare room, right?
So actually, so it was the dining room. So
The dining
um,
room, hell
it
yeah.
was the dining room, man. So I'm like, we have a countertop that can sit two people. It's just me and my daughter at that time, and I was like, man, I'll just put the press over there in the dining room and set up, and I put these little, you know, for the chairs, computer chairs, right? You
Mhm.
have um, the little plastic deals that go down and grip the carpet. So I put
Oh
those
yeah,
down under the press. So if I dropped anything, got anything sticky, um, it would land on that instead of the carpet. Well,
dude, smart.
I did pretty good, but then I had this huge green spot that's right there on the floor, dude. So
Is it
um,
from emulsion or ink?
it's from ink, man. Forest green ink.
Oh, oh no.
Dude, it just the spatula ended up flipping out of the mixing cup and just
Oh, dude,
so
always. When I was in college, I had like this little just like a little speedball set up, right? And it
yeah,
was just like a wooden frame, and it was like 11 by 17, super small, and I remember when I got it, and it was just like it was like $80 or something. It was like a piece of junk, and it was like, all right, and I figured out. I watched a couple of YouTube videos, and this was back in like 2010, and I was like, or maybe I think it was 2011, and like I was in my room in this basement in this college party house, and I remember like I was like burning screens in the closet and like coating screens in the in like a dark closet with just like a little pinhole light coming in so I could like see what I
just
was
look at
doing. And
right, right.
that was like my first experience with screen printing, and I just remember like falling in love with it just because it was like, dude, this is so rad. Like I can literally just coat this screen, and like instead of and when I was younger I would like get the iron-on transfers, and like you could
Okay.
print it through a computer
Yeah.
printer
Yeah,
and
man.
then iron it onto a t-shirt. And like I
Yeah.
was doing that all the time with shirts and making shirts like that in high school, and like spray painting stencils on shirts and stuff. And when I got into college, I remember I was like coating these screens, and there was just emulsion all over all of my shit. It was like a duffel bag and like a laundry basket, and it had emulsion stains on it. And I was like, dude, it's a good reminder of college when I was coating screens in my closet. It's just
Dude,
so
man.
crazy, man.
And that's the darkest spot, man. I mean, you gotta think that's the least amount of light going into
Mhm.
any type of room, man. But I think for me, I ended up taking a bathroom and I mean, obviously it was my daughter's bathroom, but obviously, we can make it
Gotta
happen
do
by
what you gotta
using
do.
one bathroom. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah,
So I ended
yeah.
up buying a an Amazon brand from overseas that's a vacuum exposure unit.
Oh
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean it's still working now. And so I put it in a bathroom. I put it off where the washer and dryer is supposed to go, and then
Nice.
I used the tub, like you said. Use the tub. I ended up buying an
Clean
electric
it.
pressure washer. I
In the
took the shower
bathroom.
head off. Yeah, I took the shower head off and hooked the water hose up to it, and then put it all the way down into the pressure washer,
Dude, that's
and then
awesome.
turn it on shower mode. That's the only way you can get the
Uh-huh.
water to siphon through the water hose. So did that, and man, I just ever since then and dialed in on my exposure times, and it was just cranking them out. So
Nice, dude. That's awesome. And so then so tell us about how like you had to move and like you're still in the process of moving and like how much of a pain in the ass it is and just like kind of your
Dude,
hardships and your trials that you've like gone through with that.
man, I think the biggest hardship is really and truly, to be frank, is being behind the press and having to print big orders and then
Mm-hmm.
not being able to get out there and get more business. So right now it's like you're relying on the word of mouth and the customer, the
Oh
last
yeah.
customer to go and tell their three friends, and one out of the three
Mm-hmm.
actually reach out. So but yeah, man, I had a huge 1,000 piece order, hoodies, and crew necks, and in the process of moving everything, it's hectic because you're trying to get things done,
Mm-hmm.
but yet you got to move the press around and get it set back up. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, the press is set up backwards right now, so I'm gonna have to take it back down
Really?
whenever I move it. Yeah, it's set up backwards,
Oh
dude. Like,
man.
luckily, I think that's why it's giving me so much problems. But
Oh
once I break
maybe,
it back
yeah.
down, yeah, I break it back down, man, and get it reassembled, because I'll be moving everything into a three-car garage, and so
Garage.
therefore that should be where the shop will be at from now on. So,
Nice.
I mean, because real estate, like, spaces here, I hear some
Mm-hmm.
people saying, "Oh, it's $1.25 per square foot." Well, if you need 1,500 square feet
Yeah.
here in Waco, man, I mean, you're at $8, $9 a square foot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's
that's 9 grand
jeez.
a
Yeah.
month. So yeah, it's just not
It's
feasible right
crazy.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Dang, dude, that's wild. All right, so what do you love about screen printing? Like, what is your absolute like why you're holding on to it and decided to make this your next business venture? Because I mean, after we've talked a couple of times, and you're like, dude, this is it. Like this is what I want to do. Like, what is that, and like, what is it about screen printing that makes you want to like continue to do that?
Um, I would say just the freedom to create, right? So
Mm. Hmm.
whenever in my 20s, man, I was oil and gas and a frack engineer. So I was gone my first year at 23 for 344 days. I worked 344 days at my first year. And
Dude.
then eventually I ended up starting my own trucking company. And I did that, and I was all over creation, and I was still gone, right? So
Hmm.
then eventually, um, I came back and to Waco, and I ended up working for another company in Midland, and it
Okay.
was great. I mean, it was the perfect job. I wanted to work for them when I first came out of school, and um, but I ended up having my daughter, and she changed
Hmm.
everything, right? So this
Yeah.
allows me to have that freedom because I work from home. Um,
Yeah.
but it's just the process. The process is always, even though it's the same routine, right? You
Hmm.
reclaim, you degrease your screens, you coat your screens with emulsion, you print, get your artwork vectorized and done. My guy right here that I'm talking to, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Thanks.
uh, print those out and put them on the screen, and then registering on the press. That is always, like, for me, that is the crucial part, is getting it registered. Especially, I do a lot of multicolor jobs, and
Mm-hmm.
then eventually, once it's going, it's just that process, man. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
just seeing the stack deplete, and then it increases on the other side of
Yeah.
completion. So I mean, it's just enjoyable. You can get lost in it.
Right. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So fulfilling, man. Like when I was running a press back in like my first internship after school, like I was working at this tiny little screen printing shop in like South Denver, and I just remember like starting from the bottom, learning how to like reclaim, degrease, and then move up to like drying the screens, coating the screens, and then
Right.
moving all the way up to like, all right, here's how you run like an M&R, like I don't think it was a gauntlet, but it was like a little 8 arm, 6 arm automatic,
Probably a
and it was,
sportsman.
I think it was a Sportsman, yeah, and it
Sportsman.
was so long ago. It was like I definitely I remember the basics of it, but like if you were to put me in front of a press right now, I'd be able to hand print for sure. But then automatic, it's like got to figure out your pressures and what, buttons to press and like your speed and all sorts of stuff. And it's just like, getting that experience back then, it really like set up a good foundation of like, hey, here's
Right.
how you can like create these things. And it really helped me understand like how to design better, because like,
Right.
and even now, even being in the print industry now, it's just like so cool being able to figure out like, okay, if you have this color on top of this color and you do these things, it'll make this thing happen. And it's like,
Right.
it's just such a cool industry. And yeah, the creative part about it is just, it's super, super cool, man. And
It's
it's
like
just,
it's unmatched. Yeah.
it is, right? And then
Yeah,
like,
definitely, man.
there's like nothing that beats it, like, there's nothing that I'm
Yeah,
like, dude, I'm going to do this forever, like, I don't want to do anything else because there's
exactly.
nothing else that I want to do.
Exactly, man. It's interesting because I was kind of like in a dilemma with the company I was working with before I resigned from my position and went full time back in May. Um, but it's one of those deals where I even told you, I said that like this is it. Like this doesn't work
Hmm.
out. There's no plan B or C or D. It's
Yeah.
this and this only. So it's just always figuring out the next move and
Hmm.
not so much how to do it, but more so of okay, like are you ready to brace
Yeah.
yourself for this next, step, right? Because every step is just different. So
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Cool, man. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So now kind of getting into like some harder questions. So did you have any friends or family that were, that had problems with drugs or alcohol, and how did that affect your life?
um, so man, just you got different types of drugs. You got old teammates doing steroids. I mean, and
Mm,
and that's
wow.
a drug that's not really talked about, and an
No.
addiction
Mm-hmm.
that's not talked about. But it's alcoholism. It runs in my family on one side, and
Mm-hmm.
dude, I can remember being 20 something and my grandma upset because, I'm drinking or whatever like
Mm,
that at that time. And I'm like,
yeah.
I drank responsibly because I hardly drank even at that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's taught me so much because I'm very observant. I like
Hmm.
to observe my surroundings and people that are around me, and I'm careful with who I put in my life. So, um,
Yeah.
as much as just seeing people struggle with it, I think would be the toughest part is seeing them struggle with it and just knowing that you can try to do everything to help them, but until they're fed up, which is normally the terminology that was passed to me, it's just like I'm gonna
Mm,
keep doing this until I get fed up,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, great way to put it for sure. Did did that affect you growing up? Like, did your parents drink? Did your grandparents drink?
So my mom and didn't drink, my dad didn't drink.
Hmm.
My grandparents weren't that much of drinkers just because of like medications and stuff like that. But
Oh,
as
for
far as
sure.
I had some uncles and relatives, like cousins, that are just, man, I
Yeah.
remember having to babysit one of my cousins because we were out somewhere working and then he just completely destroyed the hotel room. But,
Oh,
this is a
yeah.
representation of my family. So, I was embarrassed too.
Hmm.
So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And like same with friends. Like, did you have friends in college and high school and
So I have quite a bit of friends that just they went off the deep end, and
mm,
as much as you want to be there for a lot of people, there's a lot of people you really can't be there for.
hmm,
But you have to do what's best for you, especially if what they're doing is affecting you,
yeah.
putting you in a position to where it's you're getting in a fight for somebody that's your close friend whenever you're in high school over drugs and you don't
Yeah.
find that out until the police show up, and then you're in
Mm,
handcuffs because you're guilty by association. So unless
hmm.
your friend is going to say, hey, he didn't know, you're right there with those guys for the same crime. So,
Yeah. Oh man. Dude, yeah,
yeah,
that's
man.
so true. So true, man. That's yeah, That's hard, man. That's super hard. There was same, like growing up, I had a lot of, my friends that I associated with were all like party animals, and we were all just like part of the partying crew. And even like going into college too, it was just very, if it's like, it's like in Colorado when weed was already like no big deal. I remember even high school, it was like people were getting busted with weed and it was just like a slap on the wrist and
Right,
you didn't worry
right,
about it, right? And it was
right,
just like, there are some states you'll go to jail if you have weed, and it's so like it's so crazy. And I feel like in states where if one thing is legalized and the other things are like, oh well, the next thing up, like you could go to jail for 6 months or whatever, then it's like
right,
I feel like having even just that one thing legalized is going to push people to like do other things, because it's like,
right.
when I was younger, drinking alcohol was like no big deal because I was like, oh, it's fun and I'm partying and I'm having a good time. And I remember I turned 21 and I was like, I don't know if this is fun anymore, like I don't know if it's, and I still did it because I'm an
Yeah,
addict, and
yeah,
I still decided to drink and make my decisions. And I just feel like it's just things are so backward sometimes when people get the idea of like, oh yeah, like I can just use these drugs like risk free,
right, right,
and
right.
it's like in college and in high school, it's like it always was like to the next level. It was like, okay, I'm gonna try this next and I'm gonna try this next. And like, oh, if I don't have a good time with this one, well, there's always this one that I'm gonna try, and
Yeah,
so growing up, it was always like, being in the party crowd and a part of the party crowd, it was just like it was tough to not get away from that stuff and like
right,
not be
right,
around people who are sober, because it was like all my friends were partying and all their friends were partying. And it's like if you were sober, you were square, or like you were like, someone who was super smart and trying to focus on school, when it was like, well,
right,
I'm here to do school and I'm here to party too, and so
right.
it's definitely was difficult times for sure. And so yeah,
I mean,
like,
that's interesting.
yeah, yeah,
Did you say
definitely.
that?
And
No, that's definitely interesting though, because like going back to what you were saying is that when you turn 21, you're like, I don't know if this is fun anymore, because
yeah.
I think most of it is the you shouldn't do this. So it's like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
why shouldn't I do this? Let me figure out why I shouldn't.
Yeah.
What's so bad about this, right? But I think
Mhm.
with me, man, I didn't start drinking till I was 20. Like,
Mm.
still to this day, I've never put a cigar, uh, um, weed, anything, man. I
Mhm.
haven't smoked anything ever. And I think
Oh,
that just goes back with me being an athlete, growing up
for
and then in
sure.
college, because, your body is what you get out of your body, what you put in it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And but it's just for me, man, honestly, if I didn't have an allergy to barley, which is in a lot of beers and
Mhm.
certain types of wheats that get me it, as well as like in whiskey,
Mhm.
I don't know if I would drink or not, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Interesting.
never
Yeah.
been something that just makes me, you watch movies and you see people, they had a rough day in a movie and they go sit at the bar and drink, and it's just like,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, they're drinking it straight, and I'm just like, how are you
yeah.
able to do that? Like,
Yeah.
you're burning the hair off your chest what you're drinking, so
Yeah,
you know
dude,
what I
straight
mean,
up.
man? So
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever had the maybe it's always been a fear of what could happen if I got addicted to something, maybe.
Mm.
And
Interesting.
just seeing how it's destroyed some of the people that I know, like,
Yeah.
to make them go a different route than the route that I thought we were all going on out of school.
Oh,
Maybe that's just
interesting.
what kept me on the straight path. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, did you, when you were playing football and when you were with your guys on the team and stuff, did you see that they had problems with drugs and alcohol also? And were you like, did you stay away from it just because you had an allergy, or did you figure out like, oh man, I don't really feel that good when I drink anything, and so I'm just not gonna do it? And so like how did you come to the realization? Like, did you have a couple too many drinks one time and then you're like, whoa, like my body does not react with this well, or like how did you have to deal with like your teammates partying and like you being sober during the times of you being an athlete?
So it was questioned at first, like, "Hey Smith, like, do you want this? You want this beer, or Smith, do you want some whiskey or whatever like that?" And it was like, I'm
Yeah.
okay, or I'll take a little bit, or hey, Smith, do you smoke? No, I don't smoke. Right? That was always a hard no for me. As
Yeah.
far as like alcohol, man, like I said, I started drinking at 20 because we had our own place, and so we used to have
Mm.
little ragers every weekend where people
Yeah,
will come
yeah,
over and one of my roommates, we had two roommates, so it was three of us, and one of them would DJ, and because he was in a relationship, so he was not trying to be caught up with
doing the things.
whatever
Yeah.
we were doing, right? But he would DJ for us, and so, um, but eventually it got to a point where, you know, I would drink Evan Williams on a weekend, and man, I could drink liquor like none other, and I
Mm.
wouldn't even be tipsy or anything, and I drank half a handle of Evan Williams and half a handle of Bacardi Long Island iced tea before
What?
we went to the bonfire, man. Yeah, dude. Like
And it wouldn't affect you?
it wouldn't affect me. I would be in a good spot, right? But I
Yeah.
also don't chase those feelings though either because, like I said,
Interesting.
I'm very observant. So if I go
Hmm.
somewhere in a crowd where I do know people, but then there's people that I don't know, I
Hmm.
have to be able to function to process and assess situations, right?
Totally.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so when you're impaired, yeah, and beer would do that to me. We would play beer pong, and I would be all over the place, like, "Dang, man, I gotta go sit down," or "Hey, it's time
Yeah.
for me to leave," because I had an allergy, but I never knew it. I didn't find out until I was 28 that I had a allergy, allergic
Reaction.
intolerance to barley. Yeah, and so I ended up in the
Interesting.
hospital. Yeah, yeah.
You ended up in the hospital?
I ended up in the hospital, man.
What
It
happened?
caused me to. So I would work out for like 3 hours a day at the gym, and
Hmm.
I would go hit it hard. But
Jeez.
then I'll go out,
Yeah, yeah.
that weekend and drink pretty heavy with beer or whatever. And man, I just didn't feel good. Like to touch, like somebody could rub my back like that, and it would just shoot pain. And then
Oh.
eventually, I just went to the hospital, and when I went in, a buddy of mine, he was the head charge nurse in the ER, and
Hmm.
he said, "Hey," he handed me this. He said, "I need you to go pee. And this, I'm not sure you're gonna get much out of you." So I go in there and I went to pee in there, dude. And I kid you not, I'm trying to look for something to show you how dark my urine was, not to get too personal, but
Bad.
dude, it was the color of like a plum.
Oh my god, dude.
And I could
What?
only get that much out. And he was right there waiting on me, and I handed it to him because he already knew.
This
So
is
I
new.
handed it to him. Yeah, and he was like, "I need you to go lay down." He went to go get the urine analysis done and came back. He came in with a whole bunch of bags and started me up on fluids, gave me potassium and some other stuff. And he said, "I'm not supposed to tell you this, but they're admitting your ass right now." He said, "If you would have waited another hour, you would have dropped dead."
Really?
Yeah, dead
Oh
serious,
my
man. I
god,
was
dude.
right there getting ready to have kidney failure.
Oh, you're gonna have kidney failure?
Because whatever the protein count, so whatever happened with barley in a reaction, my
Uh-huh.
body was fighting it, and then also too the me breaking down my muscles working out so much,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the kidneys couldn't filter the protein, so my protein count was like 13, 8, 14, 8, or something like that, and so it was
Super
literally
high.
just right. Yeah, man. So I was in the
Yeah.
hospital for a week, and I went through 28 bags of fluids, and I was on morphine every 4 hours, man.
Oh my god, dude. And so was that the
So,
time where you were like, dude, I'm not gonna drink ever again?
so yeah, that's the saying when you have that bad incident, and then
Right?
so it's like yeah, after that I kind of slowed down, and eventually I have a physician that's able to that it's it's not just to write your script and hand you that, right? I
Yeah.
think a lot of doctors do that, but she
Hmm.
actually hears you out, kind of gets to know your symptoms, and then she was like, "Hey, let's do an allergy panel." Well, dude, I was allergic to all
Mm.
kinds of stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Yeah, man. So like there, I get like this splitting headache. It really feels like somebody's like pulling my skull and brain apart, dude.
My
Horrible.
God.
So
Jeez.
yeah, man.
That's,
So
dude,
it's
that's crazy.
yeah. So whenever I was in the hospital, I had rhabdo. Rhabdo is where muscles break down, your proteins can't get filtered through your kidneys, so then therefore it starts to, um, what is it called? Septic, like your bloodstream and that kind of stuff like that. So yeah, it sucked, dude. It
Dude,
sucked.
that's brutal, man.
It
Oh my
sucked.
God.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's so crazy. That's oh man. So after that, when you graduated, did that I mean obviously that probably helped you not drink and not be around any sort of like party situations like that. Were you
Party
ever
situation.
exposed to like drugs? Were you ever like working in I mean in the especially in the oil and trucking industry, I've heard a lot of stories about like those dudes know how to get down, you know, and like
Yeah, they do. Man, I tell you this, man. I don't know if it was because people were intimidated by me, but it seemed like no matter where I went, they said, "Hey, that guy does not do drugs, so just don't even ask him. He may punch you in your face." I mean,
Damn,
there
dude.
was a time that I did punch a dude that would ask me at every party, "Hey man, do you want some weed, man?" Or and then one day the
Yeah.
dude had the nerve to ask me about Molly, and I'm like, what is Molly, right?"
Oh my
And he's like,
god.
"Dude, it'll make you feel good." And I said, "Man, I already told you once to not come up to me and ask me this stupid shit." So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
another party like 2 weeks later, dude asked me, and I punched him dead in his face, dude.
Like, dude, stop talking to me about this.
Dude, stop, dude. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
good. Because he was like the little drug dealer around the little,
Little area.
this little
Yeah.
group. Yeah, this little group. So,
Yeah.
yeah, man.
That's wild, dude. That's
Yeah,
so
dude.
crazy. So,
Yeah, man.
how do you think staying sober today like helps you with your work and your work ethic?
Man, I feel like, well, for me, it's the health, right? So if I do something and if I drink, then all of a sudden I feel sick, I have aches, that kind of stuff. Well, when
Hmm.
you're pushing a squeegee or pulling a squeegee, you have a almost 5 year old running around, dude.
Mm.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it for the little bit of feeling that you get, and then when it
Yeah.
wears off, you feel like crap, or you got the
Hmm.
nowadays, being 34, you got that hangover, right? That hangover that
Yeah.
just whoops your ass the next day. So
Totally.
it's not worth it. And I've never been the guy that needs any type of substance to have fun or enjoy the people that I'm around. So
Mm. Right on.
yeah.
Dude, right on. That's yeah, no, that's great. That's awesome. So if you were to let's say if someone were to come up to you and talk to you about how like if they have a problem with drugs or alcohol, like what would you tell them?
Actually, I wouldn't really say much because I've only obtained knowledge through, like I said, my kiddo's mom, she's kind of explained that that whole process and how it works just because she grew up more around it than I did. And then
Hmm.
um, for me, it's like I would listen because I think that's the biggest thing with anybody that's seeking some type of help, even though they don't really they know what they need to do, but they need
Hmm.
just a little bit of push or encouragement. I would
Yeah,
listen
yeah.
because I mean, how can I tell somebody exactly what to go? You need to go call these people, or you need to
Mm.
do this. Maybe I'm not the person that's going to push them to go to recovery and get clean.
Yeah,
Maybe I
yeah,
point them in somebody that I know that has been through recovery for
yeah. Hmm.
3 years or 10 years, etc., and that they have some type of experience in being a sponsor to a
Yeah.
sponsees, then
Hmm.
point them in that direction because I'm not as knowledgeable as they would be. And so I think the key is to listen to what they got to say first so that you
Yeah, yeah.
can type of, help them in any way that you can. But I think listening be the first way
Mm.
that I would go. I probably wouldn't say too much.
Yeah, dude, that's good. That's really good. I think it's so important today to listen to people, you know, and I feel like we live in a society with social media and even regular media that like you know people are just trying to tell other people what to do whether they
Yeah,
like it or not, you know,
yeah,
and like that's why even with the last drop, I'm trying to really understand my marketing and like get my marketing down to where I can get it to where like I'm helping people with my marketing rather than being like, here's a t-shirt, come buy a t-shirt, I'm sober, are you sober, blah, 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 that type of shit. And
Yeah.
like, I really want to be able to like make people feel heard and understood and accepted wherever they're at, whether they're sober or in recovery or trying to find sobriety. Like, and I think the big part of that is like listening and helping, being empathetic, right? And trying to understand where people are coming from. And it's just like, nowadays there's so many people that tell us, well, if you have a problem with drugs and alcohol, you need to go to rehab, or you need to go to
Yeah.
12 step, or you need to do X, Y, and Z. Well, who's it to say, like, what if that person doesn't want to do those things?
Right.
The
Right.
next thing they're gonna do is like, I don't want to do that shit. I'm just gonna go use some more. And it's like, maybe if
Exactly.
you sit there and listen and hear what the person's going through, and it's like, maybe you ask them like, what do you need? What do you need in order to like get help? Do you want
Yeah.
help? I feel like that's
Yeah.
a big
That's
question
the
that
biggest
I try.
question.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
want the help?
Yeah.
And
Like,
yeah, dude, it's
do you
hard.
even want help? And you know what?
Mm-hmm.
There's times that, I mean, I will say that the I'm thinking back on this homeless man that I helped out back in college
Mm-hmm.
whenever I was like in my early 20s, dude. And
Yeah, yeah.
um, I actually, I mean, and it's not something that I'm proud of, but I had a homeless guy come up. He was trying to sell me a hair dryer. And so, I went to the dude. I said, "Man, what do I need a hair dryer for, right?" And
Yeah.
he was like, "Well," he said, "Well, do you need this backpack right here?" And I said, "No, man, I don't need it." I said, "What are you trying to get, right?" And he was the first person that I think I've ever helped out that was just completely honest. He was like,
Mm.
"Dude, I'm just trying to go get me a 40."
Yeah.
And my deal is I've seen this guy plenty of times downtown, seen him plenty of
Mm-hmm.
times. And so I was like, you know what? He's never bothered me. Anytime that I've spoke, he spoke, or he spoke first and then I speak back. He's never asked me for anything. And so at that point, I don't know what this man. He could have stage 3 cancer or something, right? And just in pain
Mm.
right now. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so I'm like, you know what, man? You were honest. I'll give you this money because I've actually had, in another scenario, I've had a guy said I'm hungry, and I said, "Come on, man, we're right by the McDonald's. Let's go get some food." "Nah, man, you can keep that shit. I don't want it." I said, "Well, we go to
Just yeah.
Wendy's." He was like, "No, I don't want that shit. I just want you to give me some damn money." I was like, "Well, I'm not
Yeah.
giving you any money, dude. You said you was hungry, right? So I was gonna
Yeah,
buy you
yeah,
food, but
exactly.
So I think it's like you said, do you even want help?
Yeah.
he he just wanted a beer. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Some people just want their next fix, and I may not support that on that note. Like, you want your next fix? Yeah, no, I can't help you there. I can't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. And I feel like that's such an important question to ask anyone today, because there could be all these programs and the city trying to help homeless people and like get them into X, Y, and Z, but it's like, it really comes down to the individual of like, does that person want help? And like,
right.
if they don't want the help, then like it's just gonna be,
Yeah,
unfortunately, someone else could take that person's spot who wants the help, and
right,
so
right.
I feel like today it's like having that conversation with people, and people who are trying to get sober is like, yeah, like, do you want help? Like, do you need to think about this more? Maybe you haven't reached the point where you realize like, dude, I need to like get help,
Yeah,
and it's like, for me, I realized that even after like that first major time of like asking for help and like needing to get help for my addiction, that like I now it makes it a lot easier for me to ask for help for other things, like if
right.
I'm having problems with like, whatever it is, it's a lot easier for me because I realize how humbling it is to ask for help and be like,
Yeah,
yo, I'm having problems with X, Y, and Z. Can you help me with this? And it's just like, a lot of the times it's like, oh yeah, of course, let me help you out with this. And,
right.
it's so important just to have that like initial conversation.
And it's an easy question to ask. It's a very easy question to ask. It's like, do you want help? Okay, well, what
Hmm.
do you need from me? They may tell you, hey, I just want you to listen to me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep. Exactly.
because if you don't listen to them, then who knows? They may be done and walk out in the middle of a street and get hit by a semi truck because that's what they wanted to do, right? So it's like
Hmm.
you never know. You never know what the scenario. So you just kind of listen, and then you can assess the situation from there. You can't ever go judgmental because that's when you'll say, "Oh, you need help. Here's a number. Call this number." But
Yeah.
that wasn't even a problem. He could have told you, "Hey, man, you got this huge spider that I found out there was a most poisonous spider in the world, and it's probably gonna bite you if you move." Right?
Uh-huh.
You never
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So
Yeah, right. Yeah,
yeah, man.
right. And yeah, like so you were talking about your kid's mom. Was it did you have to have a conversation like that with her, before she got help, or did you have to like come to terms with that, or
No, man. So with her, she was already doing the recovery process, and so I would go
mm,
to the meeting, some of her meetings, just to kind of, sit in and just. I was curious, right? So,
totally.
I mean, she's been sober for a while, and she wasn't as bad as they,
Yeah.
as it
As
can
like
get
as
or
people
anything
can
like
be.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, she was still, doing the thing, working and all that kind of stuff. But I think the biggest thing with her is it's just her friends are, recovering, or, she has some friends that aren't, in recovery, anything like that. So it was just, she was exposed me to something that I've never really had to, per se, really think about, I guess, to be honest. Like, I never really
Yeah.
grew up in that way, you know what I mean? And then,
Mm,
um, to our, because if you don't know something, I think that's the biggest thing with us as a culture in the United States, man, is that if you don't know something, you tend to frown upon it, right?
true.
And so
Yeah.
I didn't
Totally
know there
true.
was a such thing as a functioning addict, right? You
Hmm.
can own your own business and be a functioning addict.
Yeah.
You can actually be a great football player and be a functioning addict because you're addicted to getting bigger muscles, so you're gonna shoot up after the game, or
Hmm.
or hell, I know guys that popped Adderall to play football.
Hmm. Yeah. And like
So it's
needed
like.
probably needed it every game, right?
Exactly. Because it helped them focus and dial in and ignore the crowd, right? Because they have such bad
Hmm.
anxiety or something. But with her, it was just, I was curious. I've sat in on them, and and it seemed like it opened my eyes to an experience, and then it's hereditary too. It's
Hmm.
hereditary,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
therefore, it's just something that I found interesting. You know what I mean? So.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 Definitely. Would you say that by sitting in on some 12-step meetings with so that helped you understand a little bit more about like meetings and people going to meetings and like the disease of addiction for sure? Would you recommend that to, or like why would you recommend that to other people whose maybe their partners are going through like oh, I have a problem with addiction, I need to go to these meetings, and let's say their partner was like, well, why do you have to go to these meetings all the time? Like what what could you help those people understand by going to those meetings? Like what do those meetings help you understand a little bit more, kind of like what you were just saying?
I think in the sense of, and this is just somebody, not necessarily on the outside, but I'm on the outside, right? And so
Hmm.
whenever you're getting rid of something that you do religiously, you need to replace it with something else that you can do
Hmm.
religiously, but let it be something better for you, right? And
Hmm.
those
Hmm.
those meetings are pretty cool because it's not so much like if you were a recovering person and you were to go to church, right? Because that is going to be a Christian way of, or a Catholic's way of saying, hey, you not recovery, but hey, you need to go to church. You need to go to
Yeah,
church
yeah.
and sit in. But I noticed it in um the meetings, man. It's more spiritual, right? It's more spiritual, which is um kind of outlining ways to kind of congregate with like-minded people. We've always told to surround yourself by like-minded people if you want to achieve something. So I think that
Mm.
it's a great environment for somebody that's needing help or a push or just a knowledge in general to understand like, hey,
Oh yeah.
you know, this is I might not want to go and try this drug with this person that I told that what is that stuff? Oh, abscess. What is it called?
Um,
Abstinence.
abstinence,
No,
abstinence.
not no, not like
Absinthe.
abstaining from sex, but uh, it's the stuff that it's like you drink it, man, and it's
Oh, absinthe.
absent. That's it.
Absinthe.
So
Yeah.
right, like hey, I'm gonna fly out to go try it. Like it'll help you make a conscious decision on
Oh yeah.
exploring, or
Mm.
wanting having a stressful week, so now you want to go do Molly in Miami, Florida, or something, right? So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that those meetings are actually, I mean, because they were interesting for me, right?
Hmm.
And this is somebody that I wouldn't say that I didn't need that, right? Because
Mm.
you can gain something from everything,
Totally.
So I
Yeah.
think that would be a good direction for anybody that's getting to that point. Like, just go
Hmm.
put yourself around like-minded people.
Yeah.
I may not be the person to talk to about that, but if you
Mm.
go put yourself around like-minded people who can say, hey, this is what happened. I have a little fidget that I squeeze whenever I'm feeling antsy,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so,
Totally.
and
Totally.
it's just one of those deals, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's awesome. So, as a business owner, what, like, let's say in the future, you have your business going, you hire some people, and all of a sudden you find out someone who's one of your like top workers is an addict, or is like, on their lunch break, they're going and getting drunk and coming back to work, and like, and they're still like doing work and they're still doing okay and they're not, messing anything up yet, but you find
Yes,
out that they're like using and they're like doing something on the job. How would you handle that situation?
man. This is an interesting question because,
The hard one, right?
yeah, it's a hypothetical situation. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost, business is business, no matter who you are, right? So,
Mm.
whether
Mm-hmm.
you're friend or family, business is business, and you keep it that way. So,
That's right.
I can be your boss and take care of what I need to address in that situation. If you're coming to work high or anything like that, and yeah, you may be functioning, but it just takes that one time. Let's just say I
Mm.
had an automatic press, right? We're talking about an $80,000 machine, and you
Yeah.
get on there and you're intoxicated, and you may fall asleep, but you cause the machine to
So
do
yeah,
something, right? And now it's seized up.
ruin
So
some
I
platins. Yeah.
exactly, or you ruin what? Let's say it's a 10 color. I mean, not 10 color, 10 station press. So you
Yeah.
know ruin 10 hoodies, right?
Yeah.
And these hoodies are 20
Or
$27
like a whole
blanks.
run of hoodies.
A whole run of hoodies, right? So then
Hmm.
now you're looking at a situation that I have to
Deal
talk to the
with.
customer about. My brand's name is on this job that's getting done. So I have to
Hmm.
address that as a boss, but then after I address that, then I have to be there as a human being and say, man, what's going on? Like,
Mm.
you started
There you
out,
go.
have you been doing this the whole time? Just
Hmm.
trying to understand like how long has this been going on? Because
Hmm.
it could be an underlying meaning, I mean, like I say, people use for different reasons. His parents could have just passed in a car wreck and he just didn't say nothing to me.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
can't sit here and say that, oh, I would be this way because I don't know the situation, right? And then
Hmm.
something may strike a nerve for me to where, he could have just lost his kid. That's something that I fear.
Mm.
So, you
Totally.
know, I may not can the dude for doing that, but I'm gonna say, hey, we're gonna have to figure out something else. Like you're gonna have to go
Hmm.
and, you know, reclaim screens right now, and you're kind of in a probationary period.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Something like that, man. But I'll definitely be there to help. I mean, that's just me as a person. So I'm just not gonna push you out the door and just be done with you.
Like good
That's just
luck.
not me. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
for
can't do
sure.
that because if something happens to that person, then I'm gonna say, man, I could have been the person that could have intervened. So maybe
Yeah.
to my
Yeah.
conscience. Yeah,
There
yeah.
you go. Yeah. 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 Definitely. No, that's awesome. Yeah, like along those lines, like what do you feel as a person who has had like some interaction with someone who has been in recovery and who like knows a little bit about addiction and um would you say does that help you as a business owner like be more empathetic towards people who like might have a problem or like yeah, let's say same kind of hypothetical, like you hire someone on and realize that they might have a problem and it's like with your history with having your daughter's mom and like family and friends having drug or alcohol problems and understanding those a little bit, would that help you be more empathetic towards that person?
Yeah, it would. I mean, just in the sense of just the human side of me, right? It's just that
Hmm.
it's inhumane to not care about an individual that you have sat down, conducted an interview with, hire on, and find out a little bit of information about them. I mean, yeah, you can't just. I mean, I'm that way with the person on the corner, man. I'm not.
Mm.
You won't
Yeah.
ever see me do this when they come up to the window. I feel like this gesture here is a little bit better than telling you to shoo. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
hey,
yeah.
not today, not today, because I may not be in that mood to really talk. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, so it'll allow me to be more, what is the word, empathetic, right?
Yeah.
Empathetic and
Hmm.
not so down their throat because they could possibly mess something up, right? You know,
Mm.
you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like it's kind of like one of those deals like, hey, preventative measures. You talk to everybody, right? If I had a shop of employees, I'm gonna speak to everybody. How's your day
Hmm.
going? You doing all right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You seem kind of off today. Because then
Mm.
then I can make hey, why don't you go drop off some orders and just take some time to yourself, man, and do what you need to do. Okay, cool. Or why don't you come over here and help me reclaim some screens just because, I want to talk to you a little bit more away from everybody else. So yeah, it'll
Mm.
allow me to be more empathetic as a boss when that time comes to hire on more people. So
Nice. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's way awesome. Cool. Well, right on. So last one here. So what are some plans for Legendary Printhouse? What are like some plans going forward? Are you gonna get a building after you get out of the garage that you're about to move into? Are you gonna get new presses? What's the plan? What's your plan of action going forward?
so right now the plan is to get everything stable, right? So just
Mm,
keep everything consistent. I've been like pretty much swamped the last month and a half with
that's
the few
good.
orders that I have done, but
Hmm.
I think the garage setup will be ideal. We're going to get more consistent on social media and just content in general, right? Trying to get like my
Mm.
guy Tim over here, man. And um,
Thanks, man.
but I'm thinking the way things are kind of moving right now, man, which, it's kind of scary almost, but I think at the end of next year would be the time that I actually have to go and get a space and get an automatic
Mm.
press because, you
Hmm.
know, I can crank out easily 150 one color prints, you know what I mean, within an
Yeah.
hour and 30 or something like that, or hour and 45 minutes. But
Hmm.
when you got multiple colors, man, I may get 45 back pieces
Hmm.
done because it's four color, right?
A
So,
lot more taxing,
um,
yeah. A lot more work.
dude, so definitely looking into automatic press. I'm thinking at the end of next year would be ideal, and then
Nice.
actually a space. And so kind of what I want to do is find me 2 acres somewhere, and if I can find 2 acres, then build a I-beam steel building. They're very
Mm.
affordable, and then just kind of focus on the real estate aspect of a prime location, and then just kind of grow. I got some brands dropping that I want to drop by April. So
Yeah.
we're definitely working on some stuff there. And man, it's just really and truly just getting Legendary Printhouse out there to where people who are doing that fundraisers or a community raising awareness event or something like that, man, that they just think about using me and just know that
Hmm.
like I'm somebody that pays attention to detail if I screw up $600-700 worth of stuff because of a mishap on the machine or something like that, then I take responsibility. Like
Mm,
um, but as far as this next coming year, it looks like the first quarter is pretty swamped. Once we get past that, I have no idea what that looks like, but I know that we got a certain amount of dollars that we need to revenue next year, and
for
if
sure.
I can do that, man, then we'll be moving on to bigger
Making
things. But
some moves.
right now it's just keeping my head down and staying in my lane.
Dude, right on, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
man.
Cool. Very cool. Right on, everyone. This is Chaseon S from Legendary Printhouse out of Waco, Texas. Thank you so much, Chaseon, for being on here, man. It's always great
Appreciate you
talking
having
to
me,
you and
man.
seeing you in person and like
For
hearing some of
sure.
your stories, man. And grateful that I can be a part of, what you got going on with your business. And the Legendary Printhouse
Likewise.
is killing it, man. You're doing some great prints
Appreciate it.
over there, and the stuff that you've been cranking out here lately is just like it's looking great, dude. It's looking really
Appreciate it,
good.
bro. Appreciate it,
Yeah,
man. And
man.
definitely appreciate you having me on here, man. Like I
Of course.
said, I remember you talking about it being in the works, man. One thing about Tim, man, you definitely commit to something, you do it, bro. So I respect that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I
Yeah, man.
appreciate it. So yeah, go follow Chaseon Smith. Go check out Legendary Print House on
Print house.
Instagram and
Yeah.
Facebook, all the other socials. Go check him out, TikTok. And yeah, more is going to be coming from him. And yeah, be sure to check out the other episodes of the Last Drop Business Podcast. The winter 2024 drop is coming here shortly, so stay tuned. Check out the website, sign up for the newsletter, and
Yes,
thank you guys
indeed.
for listening. Have a great rest of the day.
Hey, appreciate it.